out!
Well, welcome to the show today, everybody. Appreciate you being here with us, and we're going to have a great show. You know, I've said many times before, one of the greatest parts about my job and, being able to travel and being in Africa as much as I've been able to do over the years, you get to meet a lot of great people. And a big percentage of those great people that you meet become lifetime friends, and they're professional hunters. And, some of the greatest people in the world. I mean, people think that professional hunting is just a glamorous job. Man, I tell you, you got to wear a lot of hats. You've got to be a hunter. You've got to be a marriage counselor, a mechanic, a ballistics expert, a skinner, a taxidermy expert. You got to wear a lot of hats. But my guest today is Mr. John Abraham with Madubula Safaris. And John, you wore all those hats and more for a long, long time. Man, welcome to the show, John. I've been looking forward to having you on.
Good morning, Dave. Thank you. Good to be here.
Now, John, unlike a lot of, professional hunters and safari operators, and, you're the owner of Madubula, a lot of guys will hunt in maybe just one country and maybe just in one area, but Madubula has a huge footprint across the safari landscape, and you hunt in not just a lot of different areas, you hunt in a lot of different countries. Kind of break down Madubula and where all you operate in.
Okay, well, Madubula, we started in 1990, so we've been going for 35 years. I was born in South Africa, raised there, and that's where I started hunting. And I kind of think sometimes that I was headed at the right time. I sometimes wish I'd lived 100 years ago, in the really old days. But I've been very fortunate in the way I've been able to operate. And you're 100% correct. There's lots of guys that only hunt in one country. And, guys, for example, in Botswana will have great elephant experience, but nothing really else. And then, people like in Zambia would have a lot of cats and buffalo and no elephants or rhino. And, so it's being able to hunt all these different countries has been wonderful, and being able to get the experience on all the big five, and numerous of them, not just single ones. And so over the years, it's been a great journey. I've had a blessed life, man, really an adventurous life, and made friends and contacts in all the countries. So we've spread out all over, and as you say, we've got a footprint from all the way north up in Ethiopia right down to the Cape Point in South Africa. It's been a great journey, and met some wonderful people. What you said in your introduction about friends in this industry, I mean, we meet some great people, whether they're clients or other outfitters or professional hunters, and we make some really good friends along the way. So it's been a great journey, and I'm really thankful for where we are today.
Well, John, I've heard great things about not only Madubula, but about John Abraham for a long, long time. And it's really shocking to me that we did not meet until recently. In fact, it was last year, and I said, I'm going to meet this guy and visit with him. And we were at a new show in Dallas over at the Kay Bailey Hutchinson Center. It's the SCI in conjunction with the Texas Trophy Hunter show, a new show. And, Dallas needs a show like that. And there's, certainly a lot of Texas companies, but that's an international show. It's just kind of a mini Nashville, if you will. Africa had a really large presence as far as operators and professional hunters that attend that show. And I walked over to you and we started talking, and I was shocked to learn that in the off season, you call Santo, Texas, a little town west of Fort Worth and out past Weatherford, you call Santo home. And, I had no idea. So you've also got some Texas roots.
Yeah, well, my wife is from Texas and had two boys that we sent over to college here because the colleges in the States are so much better than Africa. And, of course, they met two Texas girls and got married, and so ended up staying here. And the only way we'd get to see them is, when we came over to shows once a year. So decided to move over here, which was great because we get to see them, every couple of weeks now. And I can still get to go to Africa in the season, which is the summer months here. So it's really been great for us as a family.
Well, I mean, I told you a funny little story about Santo, and it's been enough years of went under the bridge that I could. You said, "Have you ever been to Santo?" I said, "Yeah, I have been to Santo many times." And in fact, one night, since they didn't have a jail there, a buddy and I got to spend the night in the firehouse when the sheriff caught us at about 6 o'clock on the last end of an all-night varmint calling expedition all across that county. I think we had 8 or 10 coyotes, 2 bobcats, 5 or 6 foxes. I mean, you couldn't, but unfortunately, look, I was like my maybe early 20s, maybe 19 or so, but I was a big varmint caller, and a friend of mine lived out there, and we called on some ranches, but we called on that long lease, what you call the public roads. We called a lot of critters, and somebody called us in, thought we were shooting whitetails, and the sheriff caught us, and he said, "Well, I mean, this isn't as bad as I thought. I've been looking for you guys for about the last 5 hours. Y'all have laid some tracks." But anyhow, I said, "Look, I got to take you in. You're not supposed to be shooting off a public road, and I'm not really too upset about you shooting varmints, but anyhow, I've got to do my job." He said, "We don't have a jail, but we got a firehouse." So he gave us a bunch of quarters so we could get cokes. He said, "It's Sunday, so the JP's got to get out of church and go eat dinner, and then he'll probably make the scene about 1 o'clock. Just you're already in a little bit of trouble. Don't mess with anything in the firehouse." So I said, "Yeah, John, I've damn sure been to Santo, Texas. I've been there many times since. Every time I drive past that little volunteer firehouse, I remember my evening spent there." But John, let's get into it now. Look, you, as you said, you hunt a lot of areas that got great plains game, and that's certainly part of the package. But you're known for your dangerous game hunting, and like most professional hunters that have good areas and that have dangerous game species in there, that takes a lot of your time, and you have a lot of clientele that books with you specifically because of your expertise on dangerous game, and not just you, your entire professional hunter staff at Madubula. So let's start in one of Africa's great destinations, Botswana, and let's go on an elephant hunt. Who is your client on this, John?
Well, that's a guy called Lloyd Douglas. I met him in 2000 on his very first safari to Africa. He hunted with one of my PHs, and we became good friends since then, and I think we've done 28 safaris together since 2000. Yeah, so I read an article once in the Safari Club magazine about the relationship between a client and an outfitter, and that you can't be friends, that it should be treated as purely a business deal, and that's the biggest load of hogwash I ever read. I've never forgotten that, because like Lloyd, he's one of my best friends, and I mean, we hunt together every single year, and it's just sometimes multiple times. And it's just been a great journey to see him grow in Africa from initial first plains game hunting to focusing on dangerous game every time now.
Well, I found it kind of interesting. Now we're gonna take a little sidetrack here. She came in, most of the time when people air charter into a camp, it's a Cessna 206 or 182 or something, and you guys came in on a helicopter, and I was looking at that, and Christy and I was looking at it, and we got to talking about another helicopter arrival that we had one time in Ethiopia. Now, this hunt was after Mountain Inyala, and they had chartered a big Russian, military style chopper, and there it is. And they finally found the camp, and after a lot of looking, he was having a hard time with the GPS. They finally found it, and they descended into camp, and here is you'll get a tickle out of this. I'll let the footage speak for itself.
Oh. Oh yeah.
And John, that's just the first pass. I mean, they, that guy thought they were coming in on a small, 4-seater or something, and they had just built this thing, and that was just the first pass. And then as they kept sweeping over, guys came running out of there. "No, go back!" And they're trying to find a place to sit down. They decimated that camp. He said it's spent 3 days with guys going down there and getting roofing material out of the very bottom of a valley and dragging it up through the jungle up to the top of the hill to put it back on the shed. But anyhow, yeah, I never think of a helicopter arrival, and I don't get a tickle out of that. So, but anyhow, so you guys are in camp in Botswana. So, John, talk to me a little bit about the difference for somebody that hadn't seen a lot of our stuff. Most people think if you're in Zimbabwe, for instance, in our Zambezi Valley, an elephant hunt starts by taking tracks, and you rarely see the bull that you eventually collect until you've spent hours, sometimes days on that track. Botswana's a different kind of hunt. Walk me through a typical Botswana hunt.
Yeah, Botswana is totally different. I mean, compared to other desert areas where, like you say, we get on tracks and just walk for hours to find the bull. Botswana is such a rich environment as far as elephants that it's a lot. I mean, we just drive around. And we do take tracks on occasion. If we find a really big track, we'll take it. But often we just spot these bulls from the truck, and then we'll walk in. Most times, a mile at the most, and just sneak in and see if there's anything worthwhile. We'll have a group of bulls that we'll go in and follow for a while. So it's a totally different type of hunting. I mean, it's a magnificent country, a magnificent area, and just so many elephants that you just see multiple bulls every day. On a bad day, we'd see 10 bulls. On a good day, we'd see 30 or 40. On this particular hunt where we flew in with Lloyd, on one day we saw over 600 elephants. Yes, there are definitely areas which are marginal areas and harder to hunt bulls and smaller bulls, and then there are those areas where you have that chance to legitimately target a 70-pound bull. But it's still hunting. Even seeing so many animals, kind of like a free-range Texas hunt that you talk about, a whitetail hunt, you have a legitimate chance to find those bulls, but those bulls, they travel so far, and they're not territorial. They'll hang around an area for a few days, but they move so much, so there's a lot of luck involved in crossing paths with that really big bull. And so you just got to be patient, and you can't shoot a big one if you shoot a little one, so you got to be prepared to pass up those younger ones and smaller ones if you're after a big trophy bull.
Well, as you can see, you guys were in elephants. It seemed from the footage just pretty much nonstop here, just going down a little track. There's a big-bodied bull standing out.
Yeah. Well, there you can see we're just driving down an elephant path. That's not even a road. That's just an elephant path between waterholes. We're driving down looking for bulls, and that's what makes them so difficult to judge, is because they're so massive body-wise that their tusks don't look as big. And you look at a Tanzanian bull, and a 50-pound bull would look like a monster because of his small body. Yeah.
John, I want to ask you a question and get your two thoughts on this, because one of the, first things when I started filming in Botswana, a lot of broken ivory there. And, we found it a lot around the water pans and stuff. They're just big chunks of ivory, laying out there. Is it just they're so concentrated? I had somebody tell me there's a lot of calcium in that area, and they feel like it weakens the tusk structure. What's your thoughts on that? Why so many broken bulls?
I've heard that too, that people say it's a mineral deficiency. But those bulls, when they fight pretty intensely. And I've seen it actually where they break tusks fighting. If you go to the Kruger Park Museum or those bulls, there's actually skulls of elephant where the tusk of another bull has gone right through the skull of the other one. And they've picked that up. So, I mean, I think they break a lot of them from fighting, those bulls too.
John, what's a big tusker? I mean, I bet you haven't weighed one. When somebody asks you, what one of these really big Botswana bulls live weight on them?
Probably 12,000 pounds.
That's about what I've heard. Most of the guys that I asked Johan Kalitz that question one day, and he said, yeah, I think if we chopped one up in pieces and put them on a scale, I've shot several bulls that'd be over 12,000. Yeah, that's a massive creature.
A lot of meat, yes, sir.
Well, a lot of meat. Well, so, I mean, you guys are proceeding on this hunt. You're looking at you see a lot of cows, calves. I mean, there's, big herds. There's buffalo, in Botswana as well that tend to, travel in those big herds. But what was Lloyd, look, we always have something in our mind on a hunt like this that we'd like to get a X amount of weight. What was what was his discussion with you on what he's looking for?
Well, we were looking for a 100-pounder.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But you know, a friend of mine, another friend of mine, taught me this once. He booked a hunt with me once. He booked 2 elephants, and I asked him. This was before I knew him, and spoke to him on the phone. And I said, "What are your expectations?" And he said, "I want to shoot 200-pounders. That's all I want to shoot." And I just thought, man, this is one of those kind of guys. You know, it's going to be difficult. And I never hunted with him, so I gave him to one of my PHs. And anyway, we were in camp together, and I got to know him. And then I'm like, wow, why would you say something like that? You know it's impossible. And his explanation to me was that, John, we're going to hunt a lot of elephants together. I'm going to hunt 2 or 3 bulls with you every year. And every year we're going to hunt a 100-pounder. We may not shoot one, but if I tell you we want a 50-pounder, we'll shoot one every year. And if I tell you we want a 100-pounder, like I say, we may never shoot one, but we'll always strive to do that. And so that was our goal with Lloyd, and that's our goal. We're going again this year. We'll have the same idea to try and achieve.
You guys are looking at a bunch of them. You walked in on some really nice bulls. I mean, from what I'm seeing right there, that looks like a pretty nice bull.
Yeah, we did. We saw some really good bulls. We saw one which would have broken 80, but he had one tusk broken off, and we passed him up, and we probably shouldn't have went back the next day, couldn't find him. And that's the bull there that we actually passed up. His other side's broken off. So
now he's not as,
big bull.
you know, some of those Botswana bulls, I mean, they look like fire plugs. You know, they're short, but they're incredibly heavy for the length when compared to, again, to a Tanzania or even a Zambia bull. But that one's got great length. I mean, most of the time you see a tusk like that in Botswana, it's probably going to weigh more than that one if it's got that length.
That's true. That's where they get their masses. Those big heavy tusks, those big thick tusks there. So, yeah.
But you guys, you know, I mean, he's yours if you want him, but you know, that isn't exactly what either one of you is looking for, and that's pretty cool to be able to walk away from that nice of an elephant and you know, feel good about it.
It is. That's hunting. You have to be prepared to do that. Yeah.
Well, you guys, again, you know, plenty of elephants, and you guys are putting the glasses on a bunch of them. But one morning you walked out there and you put your glasses on this one.
He's really long. He's not that heavy, but I'd shoot him. Not that thick. 75. Maybe 70. It's hard to tell.
Take another look at that shot. What caliber was he shooting on that, John? Do you remember?
Yes, I do. He's shooting a 475 number 2 Jeffries. That's the same rifle that I carry as a backup. Mine was built in 1925. Serial number was 28742. And we were at a Dallas Safari Club show when Lloyd was there the one time. And we walked past a booth and there was a 475 for sale. And I made him buy it. And it's 5 serial numbers off my one.
Yeah.
So we hunted together with those same rifles every year. It's great.
That is
part of the friendship, you know, another thing that we just share here.
Well, obviously he knows how to drive that thing. He you know, that wasn't, you know, at the end of the barrel or anything range, but I mean, he planted it just beautifully and yeah, I mean, that's probably the most classic thing in all of Africa, getting an opportunity on a frontal shot on a big bull with a double rifle in your hand. That's about as classic as Africa gets.
He's a good shot, you know. It takes practice, and he's worked at it, and he's a good shot with it. Yeah, it's a great bull. He ended up being a little less than what we thought he'd be. I think, if I remember correctly, he was 72 on one side and 63 on the other, I think. But
yeah,
really nice bull. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at the length on that, you know, for Botswana. That's a long tusk in Botswana. And like I said, you know, I think people can get too wound up in pounds, you know.
Yeah, they do.
In horn length or, you know, I mean, that's part of hunting. But, you know, nice to have a guy with the experience that Lloyd has. He knew exactly what he was looking at. And there was just no hesitation, you know. Could you maybe have found a bigger elephant? Yeah, maybe. Would you have wanted to kick yourself in the ass if you passed that one and never found a better one? Yeah, very probably. But I think you made a great decision, and great to have a client that knows what he's looking at, and it's easy for him to say, yeah, let's get busy. And, yeah, congrats on that. If you were only able to guide your clients for a single member of Africa's dangerous game for the remainder of your career, which species would it be and why?
Elephants have a soft place in my heart. I love elephant hunting. I love especially hunting those giant desert elephants that walk for so many miles. I mean, it requires good tracking, requires good stamina on the hunter and the professional hunter's part. And there's just something about a big elephant bull in Africa. I think that's the epitome of hunting in Africa and my favorite by far.
I would have to go for buffalo for the rest of my career. There's nothing like hunting buffalo. It's totally addictive. Every aspect and everything that's involved in hunting buffalo is just exhilarating. And sometimes, you know, you can create some poetry in motion. You know, it's really fun trying to circle ahead of a group of bulls or an old dugger boy that's feeding and doesn't know you're there, and you get way ahead of him or the group of bulls, and you ambush them, and sometimes you even lose sight of them, but your gut instinct tells you this is kind of where we've got to line up, and hopefully these buffalo are going to walk onto us. And if they do and they've got their heads down and they're feeding, you can present your client with an unbelievable shooting opportunity at super close range on a buffalo that has no idea that you're there, and hammer him good and proper. So for me, it's buffalo.
My passion was elephant. Elephant is it's both endurance, intellect, physical hunt. As long as I can put those long miles, because in Tanzania, the elephant hunting was walking a lot of kilometers. That's what I enjoyed the most. Now I'm 63. If I reach a point that I can't put in those 10, 15, 20 mile days, and I guess I'd fall back to cat hunting. I love hunting clever cats, stock breeding cats.
So, yeah, it's again a good question. I think it very much comes down to how long you've been hunting. I think that question, or the answer to that question, would change as your career develops. But where I am in my life, you know, I have absolutely no doubt where I would be, and it would be hunting elephant bulls. And the reason being is it's a physical hunt. I've got to the point where I love the physicality of it. I have no pleasure at all in jumping off a car and shooting an animal. That gives me no pleasure. I want to find a track and I want to track it. And I love more than anything watching my trackers, which I participate in following. And the ultimate hunt is following an elephant bull. You get up close to him. It's close and personal. You spend what I say like a day in an elephant's life. Come on now. Hop, shoot in the air. Good. Okay, come back.
If I was to choose only one, I would say Dugger Boys. It's always an exciting hunt. It's always a challenging hunt. And yeah, I mean, like I said before, you know, any of the big four are fun to hunt and it's nice to mix it up. But if I was to only hunt one forever, I guess it would be buffalo.
Remember, what you're seeing here is only a small part. The entire series and all the questions with all the different PHs only lives on the Safari Classics TV app. As a member, you'll get access to over 300 episodes of Safari Adventures, with more added regularly. On top of that, you'll unlock the Safari Insider, our educational component to the app, featuring real insights and knowledge straight from the best professional hunters across Africa. And if you want to connect a bit more, then there's the Community Campfire, where hunters and professional hunters can talk, share stories, and ask questions. If you're ready to jump in for a limited time, you can use the promo code on the screen to get $10 off your annual membership. Now, one quick thing, make sure you sign up through the website. If you pay through the App Store, they'll hit you with extra fees, and I don't want you to have to pay. So just head over to safariclassicstv.com and activate your membership today. So, now we're gonna head to another hunt here. We're going to South Africa. Now, this was going to be a family hunt. These are folks that you knew very, very well. So tell me a little bit about the family and what we're going to be doing on this next hunt.
Well, that's the Gear family from Fort Worth. Wade Gear, I met him about the same time I met Lloyd. They were friends. They were at college together, and we've also just become great friends. He's got 2 daughters. I taught them how to hunt. Libby, the one who is hunting here, shot her first animal. I think she was 4.5 down in the Eastern Cape when we started hunting, 5 years old. And she actually won the SEI Youth Hunter of the Year 2 years ago. So it's been an amazing journey to see them all develop as hunters and come a long way. And another great story of just, really good friends that we've made in this industry.
Well, so you roll into camp. Now, they shoot a lot of plains game that we probably won't be able to show. The girls did, but one of the really seemed like there was 2 big priorities on this: a lion and a green hunt, a dart hunt for a rhino.
Yeah, so that's Livy's quest, is to get the big 5, and both her and her sister had hunted buffalo with me, and so next on the list was the lion and the rhino. Decided to do a green rhino rather than hunt one, just for the conservation efforts. And then the lion, of course, was the priority. With the mother was really nervous about it. We decided to do it in South Africa. We did a wild managed lion rather than a lion like in Zambia, and ended up being a great hunt. It was a wonderful hunt. This was in a big reserve, and so obviously they monitor the lions, and so we had the game warden with us who checked areas out, and we were looking for an old lion, a single lion like this, and she was really nervous about it. But like you say, I just told her the most important shot is that first shot, and often a lion won't go down, and he'll jump up around and growl, and then just you keep shooting him while you can see him. And I think she did a great job on this.
But that wasn't a real close. That's not near the range you shoot one from a blind, over bait. It looked like a fairly long poke for a lion.
Well, he was laying in the sun, and
Yeah.
I was worried he was going to get up and move into that thick brush. And she just, not a bad thing. She didn't have the experience to follow something up in at close range in the brush. So I'd rather take a shot in the open like that. I think, if I remember, it was probably 125, 130 yards. Off the sticks, but her first shot was really good.
Oh, she planted him.
Yeah.
And she did come back here in a second with a follow-up shot, just exactly like you told her to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I noticed right off the bat that that meant a lot to her. There's a lot of things going through your body. You got an adrenaline dump like you've never had, but when it was all said and done, you could, see her have a moment with her dad and then just, reflecting on what I've just done and, a hug from you there. And you could tell that was an emotional moment for the whole family.
But that's great. Real hunters care about the animals, and I think hers was a combination of the nervousness of a dangerous game hunt and then just the awesomeness of taking an animal like that. We need funds to conserve rhino in Africa. That's the biggest issue we've got. And most rhino are in private hands now, probably 60%, maybe more. Protecting these rhino costs a lot, the anti-poaching and just feeding them. And it takes a lot of money and a lot of dedication by the landowners. So doing green hunts like this helps in the way that it generates funds for this conservation project. A lot of people too with rhino. Rhino is not quite as exciting as like an elephant hunt or a lion hunt or a buffalo hunt. Shooting one's kind of like going out there and shooting a Land Cruiser because they're really not that dangerous and they're not that alert. So a green hunt is just so much more exciting because, you got to get close enough, 30 yards from him, get that dart in him, and he doesn't go down. It's not like shooting him with a big caliber bullet. So, there's a lot more excitement involved in it.
Well, we should say this is a white rhino, which is the bigger cousin. Now in years past, and neither one of us lived in those times, but the black rhinos back in the Kerr and Downey days and Roosevelt days. Now, it wasn't a classic sporting animal, perhaps, but it was a damn dangerous animal because they're the most unpredictable. Even the rhino doesn't know what he's going to do from 1 second to the next. Like you said, you get up, you get to see them and see how big they are, and you get to do the stalk, and here we go.
Yeah, it's a lot more interactive. We do a lot of stalks. You get this was a failed stalk. It didn't work out. We had 3 cows there. Just couldn't get close enough. They eventually heard us and took off running, so that didn't work. Yeah, definitely a different class to the black rhino. If you read those old hunting books, like J.A. Hunter and stuff about the amount of black rhino they shot and how many they shot charging them. Different kettle of fish completely, is it? Yeah.
But they certainly still count as your big 5 or part of your danger 7, whichever category you subscribe to.
Kind of like catch and release.
Yeah. Well, she put him one right in the ham there, and now modern medicine does its job. John, from the time the dart hit him, we're speeding up a little bit, but from the time the dart hits, on a good hit, how long till the rhino's down?
Once they put the drug in him, it usually takes about anywhere from 6 to 10 minutes, probably around 6 minutes, so if it goes in well. And he gets the full dose, yes, sir. Yeah.
And they go. And, of course, here is where some conservation, starts happening, from the medical end. Kind of walk me through. So, obviously she got her pictures with the rhino. Once you were sure he's absolutely not going to go anywhere, put your shirt over him just to keep him calm. But walk me through this process.
Okay, so we do this. You've got to have a reason to do it, not just to dart them just for no reason. So we do it for conservation purposes, for management purposes. We'll get for her, we'll get it once he goes down, obviously get quick pictures with him. We'll take measurements of him so you can have a replica mount made. But at this stage is where the vets get all their information. They'll take blood samples, put microchips in him so that if he's ever poached or if there's ever any future work done on him, we know exactly which rhino it is. Take DNA samples so they can be recorded. It's a very interesting process. And here's putting in the antidote. We allow her to do that. And once that goes in, it takes him about 30 seconds and he's back on his feet again. So this is where we get out of the way. I have had them where they'll turn around and chase a truck. He luckily did not.
Well, that went just about as well as it could possibly go. She really got a rhino hunting experience, and again, that rhino's out there, will hook up with a cow, make baby rhinos, and that kind of is conservation through hunting right there. Conservation even through green hunting, and that is, like you said, that pays the bills for those game rangers and stuff, and that's a 24/7 job. They don't do it 5 days a week. Those guys are out there, boots on the ground, helicopters in the air, places that have rhino populations. If you don't protect them, you lose them, and it costs money.
And on that one, like now, we've got microchips in him, so we can identify him, put ear notches in them, so we can identify them on the hoof, and just a good project, so we can follow him up later, and even years later, we know it's the same rhino.
This is for the Safari Club International Bell Family Blueback Project, and what they do is they have folks who are going on safari or traveling around the world. They collect things in the blue bag and typically go to schools wherever they're traveling to and donate school supplies, clothing, whatever the children need. So that's what we're doing.
And so what we did on this one was we contacted this school and asked them what they needed. Instead of just bringing things that we thought they might need, instead of bringing things like soccer balls and pens, and we contacted the school and they gave us a list of how many children they had and what they really needed. And some of the things they needed were, cleaning, like toothbrushes, toothpaste, things like that. And so the Gear family were awesome like that. They gave us a budget, and we went and we bought everything we needed, made a little bag. You can see each child gets a bag, and just a great project to show them, we're in their area, and so it's to show them that hunters actually care about them too. That it's not just the funds we generate from hunting that allow us to do things like build clinics and schools, but it's giving back to them from the actual hunters themselves, and it's a great program that SCI has.
Well, when you have very little things mean a lot. We're still going to stay in South Africa. Now, we've got another hunter. We're kind of going through some dangerous game hunts that you've been in on recently, and this is a buffalo, and a big old buffalo.
This guy's Chuck Easterbrook, good friend of mine. He'd shot a buffalo before, and we were out just hunting one day, and we saw this bull, and I told him, I said, man, that's one of the biggest buffalo I'd ever seen. It was real tough, real open country. He was with two other bulls, but we finally got up to him and were able to get him.
Yeah,
Great old.
That's a pretty long poke at a buffalo too, compared to general buffalo distance shooting.
Well, if you see how open that terrain is, man, it's just, there's no way to get any closer. He'd spotted us already, so.
He planted him with a nice neck shot right there, and walk up. That's this thing you can see why you were excited. This is a really good buffalo bull.
Yeah, it's a great bull. That shot actually went through the neck and came out his bus. And that's what put him down.
I remembered. I was wondering. I knew he'd hit him a couple of times, and I said, "Wait." And in fact, I told Christy, I said, "Go back on that. Is that a hole in the boss?" And sure enough, so that was an exit wound.
That's an exit hole. Yeah, so that put him down.
Well, if I wouldn't tell my taxidermy guy to fix that, that makes a great conversation starter.
Yes, sir. Yeah, but that's just a massive old buffalo, really old. That's a classic buffalo.
Cape buffalo are, without any question, Africa's most popular dangerous game animal. So it'll stand to reason that more hunters are outfitting their rifles to tilt the odds in their favor on such a demanding animal and demanding hunt. Rifle action, caliber, bullet selection, they're all part of the decision process. But too often, scope choice is overlooked, and brother, that can cost you on this hunt. But like the tools in a toolbox, not all tools are right for every job, and it's exactly the same for scopes, including the scope for buffalo hunting. And in my opinion, the lightweight and compact Trijicon AccuPoint 1-4x24 is a great choice for a buffalo scope, and here is why I say that. Doggo boys are lovers of thick cover and spend the majority of their time there. So that's where the majority of shot opportunities happen. The 1-4 magnification is perfect for both heavy cover and close range shooting. You don't need a high magnification scope on this hunt. In fact, it's actually a handicap in a lot of situations. This 1-4 compact scope is also lightweight, which I promise you will appreciate on a long tracking hunt. And for my scope, I chose a post reticle, as I think it allows for the quickest target acquisition. And dense cover, regardless of the time of day, is dark cover. But on top of the post reticle of my scope sits an illuminated tritium triangle. This instantly draws my eyes to the dark hide of the bull, even under the lowest of light conditions. It also allows me to shoot with both eyes open, which I think is really critical when you're tracking your bull for follow-up shots. Is it the only scope for buffalo? Of course not. But in over 2 decades, I have yet to find a better buffalo scope that can compete with it. Well, we're going to go on to our final hunt, John, and it's probably for my favorite animal in Africa, and that's leopard. Now, where is this? Zambia?
No, this was in the APNR next to the Kruger National Park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that hunt, man, that was tough. It was 105, 110 degrees every day. That was a little pop-up blind we used there and had no wind in it. It was absolutely like sitting in the sauna. I looked over at Lloyd and he was just dripping sweat off the end of his nose. His shirt was soaking wet, and he just shook his head and said to me, "Man, I can't believe I pay you to do this." It worked out great. A great old cat that came in there. That was a really old leopard.
That's a big cat as well. Now, John, when I first saw that, I've seen a lot of leopard shot, and I thought that is a stone dead sack of leopard waiting for you underneath that tree. I got a little bit of surprise, as I bet you did, because...
So did I, yeah. That will teach you a lesson there. Yeah, we thought he was dead for sure. Looked like a great shot, but he wasn't.
Obviously broke his back. Yeah. And when I looked at that shot a few times, I said, yeah, he hit him high. He touched that spine.
Yeah.
And, because if he hadn't, y'all would have been wearing him at about this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that is. People just see this right here. That's the exclamation point on the paragraph. But lots and lots of hard work went in to get him into that position in that tree.
Yeah, that's true. People don't realize what it takes to get a leopard like that. I mean, I've shot leopard on the 14th day of a 14-day hunt, and I've shot them on the first day. And I've had a guy who was really disappointed for shooting him on the first day because he told me it was an anticlimax. I was like, man, from a point of view, that is a dream hunt. Wait till you've done 2 or 3 hunts and you haven't shot one, and you're going to be wishing for the first day cat,
Yeah, I've shot one of those 13-day cats. I know what that's like. And I've also shot first sit cats too. And you Yeah, you take there's gonna be enough bad, so you're always happy to take the good with it. John Abraham, my friend, I appreciate you so much being with us today, and as I always tell everybody that tuned in, I appreciate you being here. You know, we were working really, really hard on this series, and it's a grind some days, but you know, we really are passionate about what we do. Think we've got a format that's working. You know, so many of you that, you know, write a nice comment or call us or see it as a show and come up and say how much you're enjoying the Safari Classics TV, not just, you know, this on YouTube, but, you know, have come over on our app, which everything that you see here times 10 is waiting for you on the Safari Classics TV app. So we hope you'll consider coming over and being part of the family, but I just want to say thank you, and that's from the bottom of our heart. Thanks for everybody, especially John Abraham, for being with us this morning, and we will see you right here next time on Safari Classics TV.